Hi, Linda. Good morning or good afternoon, I should say. Um, Thanks for joining us and taking the time to speak to us. Maybe we can start by having you tell everyone a bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, there's a lot of different parts to me, but the parts you're probably most interested in is that I am a triple amputee, and I'm going to tell you that story. That is my major part of my talk today. I was a radiologist, and I'm now retired. My husband and I both retired about 10 years ago. I'm a grandmother, and as you'll find out, there's a couple other things that will come out towards the end of my talk. So I kind of have a lot of facets, how I connect to a lot of people. And as I've thought about speaking with you today as part of the ataxia movement and people, I realized we have a lot of things in common with one of my other diagnoses. So would you like me to go ahead and start?
Sure. I believe you have a presentation, right?
I have a slide presentation. It will take about not quite 20 minutes, and it's all pictures. So I will narrate it for you, and it's kind of the story of what happened to my husband and I, and how we've moved on with our life over the last 40 years. And I think you'll see how a lot of similarities together. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your program today. My life as an amputee and your lives with ataxia have some similarities. Challenges that we didn't ask for, and challenges that we share with our families, our friends, and our caregivers. Things like walking, trouble with our hands, and sometimes looking funny. Let me introduce myself in a fashion I heard often 42 years ago. Linda Olson is a 29-year-old third-year radiology resident who was involved in a train versus motor vehicle accident in Berchtesgaden, Germany. This resulted in traumatic amputations of both legs above the knee, a high above elbow amputation on the right side, and fractures of the thoracic and lumbar spine. 3.5 weeks after the accident, the patient was medevaced back to the Naval Regional Medical Center in San Diego. Oh, you know what? We forgot. I didn't share my screen. Hold on. You are not seeing my pictures. So let's take a little break here. See, that's what I get distracted by talking and telling you who I am. There we go. Let's hit the slideshow. And let's start at the beginning. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. Since I never lost consciousness, I could relive everything that happened when our van stopped on the railroad track. I could see a monstrously huge train coming toward us. I remember trying to get out of the van and rolling out onto the track. Then looking into my husband Dave's eyes as he grabs me and for an instant holds me in his arms. The braking train screeches toward us, and just when it can't get any louder, there is an earth-shaking crash as the locomotive smashes into the van, toppling it over onto me and pinning me under it as I lay on the track. I'm moving, sliding down the track, and then it stops. I'm told later that I was pushed the distance of 2 football fields down the track before the crumpled mass of me and the van came to a halt. It was really less than 30 seconds from start to finish. I look up and can see the sun. Strangers are looking down at me, and they're easy to see because my glasses are still on my face. I smile as they talk to me, but something's not right. They're speaking gibberish. And then I remember, I'm in Germany. They must be speaking German. They've just pulled the van off me, and I'm alive. Waking up in the Salzburg Trauma Hospital, I know where I am. I know what happened. What I don't know is how Dave is doing. I haven't seen him since the accident. I've been told that he broke his ankle and was knocked out. But will he be okay? Will he be okay with having a severely disabled wife when he married a cute, slim doctor whom he hiked with, biked with, and traveled with? What if I can't do these things with him anymore? Why would he want to stick around? The double doors swing open and I hold my breath as Dave hobbles in with crutches, his left leg in a walking cast. I need to be strong for him, so I smile as he reaches the side of my bed, all the while silently rehearsing the 2 sentences I've carefully memorized. I've been thinking about things. I'll understand if you don't want to stick around. And then I wait. He lets go of the crutches and tears run down his cheeks as he squeezes my hand. I didn't marry your arms and your legs. If you can do it, I can do it. We'd been married less than 2 years when the accident happened. I remember saying the old-fashioned vows to have and to hold, for better, for worse. We thought we knew what those words meant. But what if the minister had looked into the future and said to us, do you promise to stay together if a train hits you and Linda loses her legs and an arm and breaks her back until death do you part 50 or 60 years later? It was really hard for me to understand why Dave would want to stay with me until he sat me down one day and said, Olson, put yourself in my place. What would you do if I'd been on the tracks instead of you? I hadn't thought of it in those terms. And then he said, you need my muscles, but I need your spirit and positive energy. And so we started our journey together. My first role was to make everyone feel good, convince them we'd be okay. My cheery, hi, how are you? Rang out every time someone came into the room. Transatlantic phone calls ended with, wow, you sound normal. And my answer was, well, I'm the same person, just a lot smaller. Every morning, I knew I had a choice to make. I could keep my eyes closed and moan and groan, or I could sit up, look out the window at the fortress on the hill, have someone open the sliding glass door and think about what we could do today. Something that would get us one day farther away from the accident and one day closer to the new normal. There was no time for why or what if or blame. I knew it would take all the energy I had to move on. Dave took charge by setting up a schedule which consisted of breakfast, reading, bathing, visiting family, and lots of daily time outside. On our first trip to the garden, we'd noticed something highly unusual. They were selling beer in the hospital lobby. All of a sudden, we had a plan. When everyone arrived the next afternoon, we loaded up our books and blankets, rolled our wheelchairs down to the lobby, bought a few bottles of beer, and paraded out to the garden. Looking at this now, I can't tell if Dave is making me drink the beer or if he thinks I've already had too much. From then on, we held court every afternoon outdoors, where we tried to outdo each other with jokes and funny stories. My goal was to make everyone laugh, to see the future as positive, and to avoid tears and negativity. At night, after everyone left, we forced ourselves to talk until 9 o'clock in the evening. Dave picked things out of our life that we enjoyed: music, work, travel, reading, and eating out. We talked about how we could still do all those things in a wheelchair. He concentrated on what we could do and what needed to be done. It was useless to talk about what we couldn't do. Now, Dave has always been a black and white sort of person. His immediate response to a problem is to create a solution. Notice that I didn't say look for or think about. I said create a solution. Thinking and planning were just about the only things we could do. So within the first week, we started making lists. I tried to put the components of my life on paper. Unknowingly, I was already creating the teams to work with. Our marriage was uppermost in my mind. Knowing that I'd have to lean on Dave, but wanting to maintain our very different personalities was a really big issue for me. We knew we'd need our friends and didn't want to push them away. At the top of my rehab list were the basic activities of daily living and my hope to drive a car again and to use prostheses, while off in the future were my plans to go back to work. Our last night in the Salzburg hospital came in late September. 5 surgeons filed in and stood at the foot of our beds to bid us an emotional farewell. 3.5 weeks ago, these vastly experienced, gray-haired trauma surgeons had saved my life. The one who was fluent in English spoke for them. "We have something we'd like to say. We've been watching you for the past 3 weeks. If you were Austrian, you might not have opened your eyes yet. You have shown us what we believe is the American spirit." Dave and I were silent, not wanting to break the spell. We knew it was time to leave the Unfall Krankenhaus and our castle on the hill, time to go home and prove these men right. With Dave's love, I knew we could do it. We were medevaced back to the Balboa Naval Regional Medical Center, where Dave returned to his residency as a radiation oncologist in the Navy. There were very few triple amputees in the United States, and the doctors who consulted on my case told us I probably wouldn't be able to walk. And then I met Lieutenant Donna Pavlik, a hard-driving 29-year-old woman who was a lot like me. My goal was to get her to laugh every day, and hers was to get me to concentrate. A stranger looking in would have seen patients and therapists laughing while sitting or lying on the floor, butt walking, doing one-hand pull-ups or lopsided one-hand push-ups. All of us trying to vying to see who could have the best time. Sweat rolled down my face as I stood in my new legs that looked like something from a plumbing store. Up and down the halls we walked, and then out onto the hospital grounds, tethered to Donna by a rope and a belt around my waist. People see me. Some of them say hi, but most of them look away. In my mind, I say, "Hey, I'm just like you. In fact, this could be you." For the first 4 months, or 4 months after I tried on my first fake legs, I walked a mile. I was thrilled, over the moon with happiness. Dave and I worked hard to recreate our lives. And then one day we discovered we had really recreated. We were going to have a baby. All of a sudden, this wasn't just about me anymore. This would be changing diapers, cooking, feeding, and playing with just one hand. We were going to be a family and do all those family things. We had to be as normal as possible. A year after the accident, I returned to Los Angeles to finish my radiology residency and gave birth to Tiffany in 1981. 3 years later, our son Brian was born. In fact, that's whose house that I'm in South Carolina today. He's now 37 years old and he's a surgeon. So life has moved on, and that kind of gives you a little hint as to how things have turned out. Our lives look pretty much like everyone else now. We'd get up early every morning. Dave would help me get my legs on. I'd get in my car, which was adapted for me to drive, take the kids to school, and go on to work at UCSD, the University of California, San Diego, where I walked with my cane and worked 9 to 10 hours before going home to fix dinner and get back in bed. Now, while Brian and Tiffany thought everyone's mom had a wheelchair, an elevator, and walked with a cane, their friends thought I was kind of weird. When told I'd lost my arm, their friends, when they were really young, often wanted to help me find it. After all, that's what you do when you lose something. Having kids forced us to innovate, to get out and go. First, it was the nearby beach in San Diego at least twice a week, with beach toys and dinner in the sand. I had loved the outdoors. I'd hiked Mount Whitney and Half Dome, both of them twice. I'd been to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but because I thought I'd feel bad about all the things I couldn't do, we hadn't been back out into the great outdoors. Brian was 5 and Tiffany was 8 when my college roommate, Carla, called one day and said, "Hey, Linda, when are you going to get your butt back outdoors and go camping? You raising city slickers or real kids?" So just like that, we had a new team, our camping team, a rambunctious Montana family with 2 kids. Yellowstone became the first chapter of our travel saga. For 5 days, we canoed the remote south end of Yellowstone Lake, which was accessible only by non-motorized boats. Boy, did we ever get back into the wilderness. 10-day long trips, canoeing and kayaking, usually 100 to 110 miles of lakes and rivers, places where we rarely saw anyone else. We camped in the dirt where I was queen in my kitchen without walls. I butt walked down to the shore of the lakes and pumped water through the filters. It might have looked funny, but it was fun, and I felt like I was contributing. At the end of the first trip, we realized that I needed to be carried, so Dave concocted the first of mini pack frames. My vanity got in the way, so the first editions saw me with my legs on, a totally stupid way of doing things. It didn't take long to realize that fake legs were useless out in the wilderness, and we could go much farther without them. Plus, it's pretty entertaining to watch people's faces as they saw a two-headed hiker coming toward them on the trail. So legs became a thing of the past, and they stayed at home or in the car. Over the next 20 years, in addition to wheelchairs, I was pulled on dog sleds, snow sleds, rode horses, rafted, and even wheelbarrowed in remote places. Now, not everything worked. The mermaid swimming plan failed, as did the miniaturized skier. Now, everyone who knows us would say that our lives were normal. And so after 30 years of interpreting over 500,000 imaging studies at UCSD, I agreed with Dave it was time to retire. Time to enjoy our granddaughter, to travel and enjoy life. And then it happened. It's Christmas Day and we're expecting 30 people for dinner. Our grown children are happily cooking, but I'm freaking out. Out of nowhere, I start yelling at them, hurry up, we can't make it. We're not going to get it ready. What's wrong with you guys? I'm hyperventilating and shaking. What is wrong? Linda, the cool as a cucumber person, has lost it. 5 weeks later, we hear the words, I think you have Parkinson's disease. Our smart medical friends all say, you can't have that. You don't have the typical signs. Wanting more certainty, I seek a second opinion, but they can't make the diagnosis either. It's then that the radiologist inside me says, go ahead, get the nuclear medicine scan so you'll know if it's true or not. As I watch the images appear on the monitor, I can see the abnormality, an absence of radionuclide uptake. Oh no, it's another amputation. But this time, it's part of my brain that's missing. David and I start thinking about the little things that have snuck into my life over the past few years. Difficulty writing, occasional slurred speech, restlessness in my arm and a leg, and that anxiety. So it seems like we're back to square one. We've been hit and knocked down again. What are we going to do? Well, exercise is even more important now, but as you can imagine, with only one limb, it's difficult for me to do vigorous workouts that make me sweaty and get my heart rate up. So we have to be creative again. I can ride a stationary bike. Sometimes I just tell my legs to ride on without me. And on occasion, I've been known to do one-arm push-ups. I'm not sure which is more remarkable, using only one arm, or I think I was 69 when I did this. So I thought it was pretty cool to be a grandma doing push-ups. Luckily, things have changed in the last 40 years. Now it's easy to get on the computer and look for exercise sites that I can follow at home, like Caroline Jordan, who has a large series of chair cardio workouts. In fact, a couple of years ago, at the end of one of our workout sessions, I looked at Caroline and told her she might be in good shape, but there was one thing I could do better than her or anyone else. She laughed when I challenged her to get down on the floor and have a butt walk race with me. Watch what happened.
Hello, this is Caroline Jordan, and today I am going to try and win a butt race with Linda K Olson. So wish me luck. Okay, here we go, Linda. All right, we have to be lined up. Our butts lined up. Legs out. Yep. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, no way. You want to do it going back? Yeah.
So, what are we going to do? Many of us have a neurodegenerative disease that is slowly taking away bits and pieces of ourselves. It eats away at our families and friends. Days are unpredictable, some worse than others. I try to start every day with a little assessment. Does today feel like what's going to be a crummy Parkinson's day? If so, do I need to adjust my schedule for the day? Do I need to practice mindfulness, get more rest? Do I need to ask for help? And then I do an attitude assessment. What can I do that will make people around me happy today? If I'm going to need help, can I make it fun or funny? Can I laugh at myself? Admittedly, this isn't always easy. Some days I have to work harder than on other days. In the days after the accident, I used to think about who I was: Linda the wife, Linda the doctor, and Linda the friend. Each of those personalities had strengths that I drew on to help me do things that I might otherwise have thought were impossible. And now I'd like to open this up to maybe a discussion that we can have together, because I think that most of us are kind of in the same boat here. And by the way, as I come to the end of this, I just wanted to show you the book that I published, was published a year ago this month. And being as this is Disabilities Month, this is the book that talks about our life in much more detail than what I've just told you. So anyway, Mark, we're back. I'm back to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm open to any questions you want. You can't ask a question that I won't try to answer. So.
Right. So maybe you can stop sharing your screen, and I will ask anyone who wants to ask a question, just use the raise hand button. You can go ahead and ask a question. Anyone? Well, before anyone, oh, we got
Mary
one from Mary Beth, right?
Mary Beth, you're on mute.
I can hear you. So you're not on mute.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
you're-
Well, Linda, I just appreciate one time when you said, just having fun. We're just trying to, maybe I look funny. That's what you said, but maybe I'm like, that's right. We're just out here to try and do things we can and have fun doing it. I mean, maybe it isn't perfect or beautiful, but that's how I try to be. I mean, it isn't, I just try to remember that even if other people think it looks funny.
It's funny because when for the first 25 years, I walked with a cane. And when I went to work, you didn't see me in a wheelchair because I could walk in those days,
Mhm.
which I can't do anymore. And I just learned how to not pay any attention to how they looked at me. And it was interesting because as soon as I was injured, I learned that I had to look people in the eye to get them to talk to me. Because for the first few months, I was in a wheelchair all the time. And if I didn't just look right up at them and say, hi, how are you? They didn't know what to do. And so it was kind of me giving them help to kind of say, here, let's talk. And as soon as they started talking, they didn't see what was going on below my neck, pretty much almost always. So it was a trick that I learned pretty quickly, and I still use it because now I'm in a wheelchair all the time with my Parkinson's. But what do you do to make yourself feel good? I mean, you guys all have more experience than I do in many respects. So
I agree. I try to normalize things. I mean, I don't really know what normal is, but what people are used to. I mean, sometimes I can stand up and give them a hug out of my chair, and if they hold on to me, then I won't fall over or something. But I find the same thing, like if I pass people on the bike trail and I'm in my chair, oftentimes they don't say hi to me because you're right, I don't look at, but if I look at them, that's a good trick. Then often they will.
You look at them and say hi, they have to do something. I mean, they could turn around and ignore you, but they've got to do something. They have to blink their eyes, or they have to shake, or they have to say hi. They've got to do something. So you don't give them any choice.
I think I just try to have fun, just try to enjoy things. And if they think it looks funny, too bad. like you said.
Are you comfortable making fun of yourself in a reasonable way?
I think so. More, I'm getting that way. In fact, someone said that to me the other day. I'm glad you can laugh at it. And I didn't really think I was, but I do, I guess, yeah, because I suppose I know that it makes other people more comfortable.
Yeah, I would totally
And-
agree with that.
And
Yeah.
me too. I mean, like, okay, well, it takes me a few more minutes to shut the door than anybody else because I have to leave and turn around and pull it shut. I mean, whatever. That's different,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
different
and
is just different.
tone. Yeah, it sets the tone and lets people, right up front, you've addressed the big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And you kind of make a little bit of fun of yourself. They know that that you're not normal or that you're different but you're fine with it. And I think that's huge. And you want people to feel comfortable. I do. I want them to be willing to help me when I need it, which I need a lot more now. So, and I've learned, yeah, go ahead.
I think an important point that you brought up, Linda, was sometimes when we have something serious like what we have, we tend to dwell on what we can't do, right? And that video you showed with the trainer was you basically showing what you can do better than what other people can do, right? So how do
Yeah.
we figure what that is for us? Figure out what that is for us.
Well, and it may be hard, but at least you can find something that you can do equally well, or you can do that's funny. And I mean, a lot of things I do are just because they're funny. Like the way I walk, or when I have to pick up my cane, because you don't want to overdo it. I don't think many of us do, but it always allows people to kind of giggle or ask if you need help. And, I grew up in the era where it was politically incorrect to ask disabled people if they needed help. You weren't supposed to open the door for them. You were supposed to let them be independent. And that was fine when I was young and much stronger than I am now. But boy, my husband came up with a good term. He calls it being graciously dependent. And it taught me two things. When I could look at somebody and say, could you open the door? Or they looked at me and they could see me in front of the door and I'd say, I would love it if you would open the door. It made them feel good because they had done something to help somebody else. And I thought, we took this away from people when we said, don't help those disabled people, they can do it on their own. Well, they didn't get the feeling of having helped somebody, that warm feeling of, oh, that was nice. So it's a two-way street. So I try to include people all around me when I need help getting in and out of my wheelchair or walking 5 steps or whatever. It's just part of the game. It's part of being part of the team with me. So, yeah.
Jody, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself, Jody.
Oh, yes. Linda, you're such a extremely positive person. I guess that's just ingrained in you, but I, kind of let things get me down sometimes. What kinds of things do you do to keep such a good attitude?
First of all, I have a confession. I think I have the happy gene. And I think if you drew my blood, someday they'll be able to find those genes. Having said that, it doesn't mean that I'm happy all the time. It just means I have a predisposition to that, which is lucky. The things that I do, and this is before gratitude and all these things became popular. I mean, I think the first thing that I did was I'd look around and I'd see somebody who I thought was worse off than me. We're always looking around. Oh my God, that person is, I can do anything if that person can do it. So that always helped me kind of to begin with. And secondly, I always think about something that happened good today or something that I'm good at. And I will admit, I had a lot of advantages. I was young, I was healthy, I was almost done. I had finished medical school. And I used to, when things got really dark, I would say, I'm still a doctor. I can still do something. So I always told myself that even though I couldn't do what was in front of me today, I would think about the other things that I could do well or that I could do. And then I would try to learn how to do that thing new. So I always kind of took a challenge and said, can't do it this way, but either I'm going to do something different to take its place, or I'm going to learn a new way to get there and do that. So kind of spent a lot of my time challenging myself to figure out how to do things. And when I'd done that, it made me feel better. It's kind of a circuitous answer, maybe not the best answer, but yeah. And I think just every day, just looking outside or opening a window and saying, oh, that feels good. And you almost sometimes have to find something that will help you. And to me, it's fresh air outdoors. So even if it's sitting in the driveway, more than just opening the window, if I can, getting outside is probably one of the biggest ways I can, any time of the day or night, make myself feel better. Does anybody else have that feeling? If you can get your wheelchair or walk or sit somewhere outside, does it make a difference? Have you tried it?
There definitely is like evidence to show, well, I mean, that's where we're meant to be, outside, right?
Yeah, yeah. It just feels good, just having that breeze or whatever. Now, obviously, if it's 110 degrees and it's miserable, yeah, it's not a good solution, but yeah.
Well, it doesn't appear we have any more questions, but I have one more for you, Linda. What would your advice be for anyone who, just say, has got newly diagnosed, or maybe they just got injured, they just had a severe injury and they're kind of down in the dumps, or whatever?
You know, I think one of the biggest things that helped me to begin with was I had a choice, realizing I had a choice. And there were one of two things. I could either be angry and sad, or I could be happy. And I had to actually think about those every day. Which do I want to do? And once in a while you want to be angry and sad, but you can't let those happen very often because they become lifelong if you do. So if I said to myself, I want to be happy, one of the best ways to be there was to make the people around me happy. So the people that were helping me go to the bathroom, or helping me eat, or taking me out in a wheelchair, I learned to engage them, ask how they were. I learned about their families. I mean, I kind of went outward to them. And with my family, I wanted them to feel optimistic. And that doesn't mean that I'm ever going to walk again. That doesn't mean I'm going to be able to build. It just means that we're going to be able to have a good life, no matter what it is. And I've had two different types of things. Becoming an amputee was a sudden, one-time event. And as we realized within a few days, it wasn't going to get worse. It was only going to get better. Having Parkinson's or ataxia is the opposite story. Things are going to slowly get worse, and there are things that aren't under our control to the same degree. So you kind of have to recognize that not everything you try is going to be successful, but you keep trying because maybe 1 out of 3 is successful, and it makes you feel good, and it gives you the impetus to keep trying, because I wanted to be independent as possible, which clearly I could never be totally independent, although I can live by myself for several days at a time because things are set up for me to do that. But even now, as my Parkinson's gets a little more obvious, I'm beginning to realize I'm not sure I want to be by myself for 3 or 4 days in case I get into situations that I can't take care of myself. So it's been two very interesting opposite disease processes, if you will. And obviously I've learned a lot over the 40 years that I've been an amputee, 42 years now, which have been helpful with my Parkinson's. So I've been, again, it's kind of like, aren't I lucky to have been an amputee? Look at all the things I've learned. It's kind of always looking for something that you can feel better about. And I know it sounds weird to say I've been a lucky amputee, but I've had a terrific life as an amputee. Things that I never would have been able to do because people helped me and places we went. So, I don't know, you read literature about people that are spinal cord injuries and things like that, and most of them, as the years go on, would tell you they would not trade their life for another one. You learn how to make it work. I know that doesn't answer all the questions, and it doesn't answer the questions for those of us who have neurodegenerative diseases, but I still think we have to use those principles and try and make them work as much as we can. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot for your time today, Linda. How can people reach you, or where can people get the book?
The book is available easily on Amazon. And in fact, if you're a Kindle reader or an ebook reader, as of today, the publisher that published my book, there's a sale for 99 cents. So if you, and I'm not sure how to get you to that.
I saw it on your Facebook page.
Yes, that I just put it there last night. So if you can direct people to my Facebook page, either way, under my name, and if you have something to write with, I can tell you my Gmail address is real easy. It's just my last name and then LK. So it's Olson and then L for Linda and K for my middle name. So OLSONLK@Gmail. And I may not answer in 20 minutes, but I'll answer it. So yeah. And I do have a web page. So, and then the web page is just lindakolson.com, and you can find information on the book there or things like that. So that might be the easiest way. Go to lindakolson.com, all small letters and no spaces. Yeah.
Okay, thanks again, Linda.
Mark, it was nice. I'm glad I've gotten to be with you twice now. We'll have to keep it. We'll have to make this a tradition once a year.
Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
Good day.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you for coming and have a great weekend.
Thank you.